करते हैं इंडियन स्टॉक मार्केट के बारे में। आपको पता ही है कंप्लीट इंडियन स्टॉक मार्केट को इम्पैक्ट पड़ रहा है, मार्केट काफ़ी ज़्यादा अप डाउन कर रही है। और टेलीग्राम ग्रुप ज्वाइन करना, ग्रुप का नाम ट्रस्ट क्रिप्टो प्रीमियम में। चलिए एक्सपर्ट की राय लेते हैं भैया, क्या चल रहा है इंडियन स्टॉक मार्केट में।
So we now turn how the unfolding war in Israel and Iran impact oil markets. There is a reason why equity markets across Asia, including in India, are now in deep red territory because of crude oil prices surging. And in the wake of that, there is now a very important update coming in, which is that G7, which is the group of 7 most industrialized countries, are looking to now push more oil into the market. This could be a very significant move by these countries. In fact, reports that are coming in indicate that there are 3 out of those 7 countries who are on board, and that includes US, which has one of the largest oil stocks in the world. Let's get in my colleague Himanshu Mishra for more updates on this. Himanshu, this could be very significant if the US, along with 2 other countries, does release oil into the market. In the interim, in the immediate, it would actually bring down crude oil prices.
That's right. The largest strategy is to augment the supply of crude oil, considering the fact that Strait of Hormuz remains a part of the war zone, and it has had a very debilitating impact on the flow of crude oil from the Middle Eastern countries. Considering the fact that around 20% of the total global supplies actually goes through the Middle East, through Strait of Hormuz. So in last 10 days of the war, of course, had a very bad impact on the market. And that is why today the prices are now hovering around $115 to $119 per barrel band, which is the highest in last 4 years. And this is the point at which G7 is now working on a new strategy to intervene in the market, because US and other advanced economies, they have huge reserves of crude oil. And the larger idea is that if these G7 countries use the resources, the huge reserves of crude oil that they have, if that is released in the international market, it will to some extent assuage the concerns of many countries which are very high import dependent countries, including a country like India. And once the supply improves in the international oil market, it will also help bring down the price, which is now at an unprecedented almost level of $119 per barrel. So this is a strategy to deal with this economic crisis which is now developing. It's been 10 days of the war, and we do know that in the last 10 days, barring a couple of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, most of, in fact, almost all oil traffic from the Middle East has now come to a standstill. Even gas supplies have been very badly affected, and that is one very important reason why G7 has now decided to intervene in this case, and US apparently seems to have supported this idea.
Okay, so we're also going to get Sharad Dubey as well, and Himanshu continues to stay with us. But viewers, we need to understand why this story is so important. It impacts every one of us in some form or the other. India is one of the largest importers of crude and energy around the world, but it's not just an India story. This is something that impacts every country in the world. What has happened is there's been a 29% jump in crude prices because of what has happened in the last 48 hours over the weekend, with the Hormuz Strait impacting, shutdown impacting the traffic, the oil container traffic. Add to it the fact that some of those visuals that you see on your screen of strikes taking place on refineries. Now, in the backdrop of that sudden surge in prices, there are now immediate measures that are being considered by countries across the board. As I said, it's not just an India impact. It's something that's going to impact all other countries as well. Europe could actually be one of the worst hit if the gas prices actually continue increasing going forward. And as Himanshu was pointing out, the fact that there could be an interim, immediate decision to release oil into the market could actually be extremely significant in bringing down those prices. Let's get in Sharad also for an assessment of what really is it that India is now preparing for. Sharad, so far, the government has been very categorical in saying that we are in a comfortable position. We have a fair bit of reserves. Things are under control. We have a lot of non-Hormuz Strait sources of energy as well. But over the last 48 hours, unprecedented developments have happened. You've actually seen a 29% surge in crude prices. There's a reason why markets around the world are now extremely nervous. It is because of how energy is likely to be impacted. Looking for premium living in a green township? Introducing Eden and Waves.
Well, that's correct on that. Looking at the markets, we see there was a gap down opening, and now there's a minor recovery coming in the markets. But remember, Nifty has hit its 10-month low levels. Nifty Bank testing its 200 EMA levels as well, and the volatility which is there in the markets, that has shot up. It's up almost 30%. The technical indicator which we are tracking, entire sectors, all of the sectors are in the red. Minor recovery in the sugar and the IT names, and a little bit in the oil exploration companies, but net rupee has hit its record low levels, and it's at those levels as well. But as you had stated earlier, there was a minor recovery, crude coming off from the highs from 118 to roughly $109 per barrel on the reports of G7 intervention, which Himanshu also mentioned, and it's a very developing story. But net there is a massive sell-off, and more than 11 lakh crore of market capitalization has been wiped off from the BSE listed companies.
Indeed. And very quickly, Sharad, and this is again extremely important, because when we buy crude, we're actually buying in dollars. And when you have an rupee dollar ratio actually becoming worse, you have the Indian rupee depreciating, that also impacts our purchases, doesn't it?
Well, that's true, and the pressure, we can see that in the initial hour of trade, the rupee was 50 paise weak, and the current account deficit, that also comes in when you are doing the entire mathematics and calculations for the crude oil. Now, of course, channel checks are also suggesting that there are 5 or 6 national state elections, so the government might not increase the price going ahead, and also the refining margins are not giving a good calculation for the OMC companies right now as well. So there is, of course, a second order effect happening across the chain.
And Himanshu, stay with us. I'm going to play out some extremely important sound bites, including that of External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar, where he spoke on the floor of the House.
Committed to ensuring that fully taking into account availability, costs, and risks of the energy markets. For us, the interests of the Indian consumer has and will always be the overriding priority. Where required, Indian diplomacy has supported the endeavors of our energy enterprises in this volatile situation. Honorable Chairman, sir, let me conclude.
तो आपने देख ही लिया किस लेवल पे टैक्स हो रहे हैं भैया, उनके पूरे डिपो उड़ाए जा रहे हैं, उनके पूरे ऑयल की इंडस्ट्री उड़ा दी है भाई, तो काफ़ी ज़्यादा इम्पैक्ट पड़ रहा है उसकी वजह से। ठीक है,
by highlighting the 3 guiding factors of our approach. 1. India is in favor of peace and urges a return to dialogue and diplomacy. We advocate de-escalation, restraint, and ensuring the safety of.
किस तरह से सारे में आग लगी जा रही है, आप देख सकते हैं कितना ज़्यादा अटैक्स हो रहे हैं, आपस में इसरार हो रहे हैं, कोई भी झुकने को तैयार नहीं है। अब देखते हैं क्या होता है, किस तरह से पेट्रोल का बंदोबस्त होता है। चलिए गाइस, चलते हैं, इसी बात पे एंड करते हैं, बाय।